Hello and welcome to the Cannon Sports Podcast. I am your host, Ryan from Cannon Sports, and joining me today, live from the campus of St. John Bosco in Bellflower, California, football coach Jason Negro. Coach, thank you so much for being on the show.
What's up, Ryan? Thanks for having me, and it's always a pleasure to be able to talk a little bit about our program and what we're trying to accomplish over here at Bosco.
Awesome, man. So I just want to run down a couple of the accomplishments, and there are many. Currently in the 2021 season, Bosco is ranked number 4 in the nation, number 2 in the state of California. You yourself were an assistant coach in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl Game in 2013. You were also the MaxPreps 2013 and 2019 National High School Coach of the Year, as well as MaxPreps High School Coach of the Decade. Your St. John Bosco Braves have won 5 Trinity League titles, 3 CIF titles, 3 California State titles, and 2 national titles.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment. I got really good people. I think that's that says a lot about the type of people that we've had around in our program, and hopefully we're going to keep that going.
Awesome, man. So, Coach, if we can start from the start, where are you from?
I grew up here in the city of Bellflower. I was a public school kid all the way through the 8th grade, and then back in 1987, I'm going to date myself a little bit. My dad came to an open house here at St. John Bosco High School and was like, that's where you're going to go to school. I really didn't have a choice back then. And he said he was looking for something academically and athletically. It was a little bit more higher level, a little bit more challenging. And that's the reason why I wanted to put me in an all-boy Catholic education like Bosco provides. And, I have a lot fond memories of the place as a student here. And, I went to college. I came back as an assistant coach for 3 years toward the latter part of the 90s, and then went away to Tribuco Hills High School, where I spent 9 years as a coach and teacher, 7 of which as the head coach, and then got the job back here in 2010 and haven't looked back. And I'm really pleased and honored to have the opportunity to work here at Bosco. And this place is special to me. It's more than just a job. It's a passion of mine. It's kind of a lifestyle for me to be able to work with these young men and have the opportunity that this program provides me to be the head coach. And I'm just very blessed to be sitting here today. And, this place has given me a platform to be on podcasts like this and spread the message of Salesian education. And that's kind of cool.
That's awesome, man. And it's cool to hear, an alumni coming back to coach. We've been interviewing a lot of coaches, and it's a very rare thing, alumni that come back to coach. Now, when you were here at Bosco, what sports did you play?
I was a baseball, football player. No, I wasn't overly talented. I probably couldn't play in the current climate that we have here at Bosco, but I worked really hard. I was a diligent guy. Sports was, something that kind of, laid the foundation for myself in terms of who I am and who I become to be in terms of a man. So I kind of fell in love with it. And, I knew that my playing career was going to end at some point, and I wanted to stay involved athletically because I just think that athletics provides so many different types of, positive aspects to a young man's life. And that's the reason why I got into coaching. And, Bosco's allowing me the opportunity to do it in the way that I want. And that's pretty unique and rare. I spent, like I said, 9 years at the public school system, and there's a lot of red tape and a lot of difficulties when you're trying to coach at that level. And that's the reason why I came back here to Bosco, is because they provide me a lot of leeway in terms of, how I want to educate and coach my young guys. And it's been a blessing for me to be here. And I'm just very, very thankful for it.
That's awesome, man. Now, when you played baseball, what was your position?
I was a third baseman. I was actually pretty decent in baseball. I was a better baseball player than football player. I had the opportunity to play with Nomar Garciaparra. Yeah. He was a shortstop. I was a third baseman. That's probably why he went to Georgia Tech. I gobbled up everything in front of him and made him look good. But no, I got to play with Nomar, and we had a very talented baseball team. There was 3 guys drafted off that team, that were seniors along with me in the class of '91. And but I was a baseball player, enjoyed it, and I played a little bit of football as well. But baseball was kind of my calling. I was an all-league, player for 2 years, and football, I just played just a little bit here and there.
What was your position?
I was a quarterback.
Football? Okay.
But my best friend in high school actually was the other quarterback. We were just both buddies, and we split time for 4 years that I was here and he was here, and we're still friends to this day. So, I kind of identify with that backup guy a little bit more, and I think that's one of the reasons why I have a lot of success with all the players in our program, because I know what it's like to be a starter, and I know what it's like to be a backup. And I can kind of speak from both angles there.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a great skill to have. Now, when you went off to college, where'd you go?
I went to Cypress College for a year, spent a couple years at Santa Ana College, played baseball there, and then I graduated from Cal State Dominguez Hills. I was trying to become a physical therapist, and then a buddy of mine when I midway through college was like, hey man, why don't you help me coach this youth Pop Warner team here in Bellflower? And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. And he's like, no, I need some help. My kid's going to be on the team and we'll just do it and we'll have a lot of fun. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Well, those kids were 7 and 8 year olds and we had a team, Bellflower Junior All-American football. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I was like, man, this is a calling. This is much bigger than, any impact that I can have as a physical therapist. I wanted to stay in part of, athletics and at the high school level, and working with young people was something I really wanted to do. So I was like, I'm going to go back. I went to Dominguez Hills. I said, look, I want to coach. What do I need to do? And they're like, well, what do you want to do if you're going to have to teach? So what do you want to teach and what are you good at? And I said, I'm pretty good at math. And like, all right, how about you get your math degree, get your single subject credential in mathematics, and then go be a math teacher and you can coach. And you'll probably never be without a job because it's kind of hard to find math teachers. And little did I know how difficult that journey was going to be to get my degree in math, taking 4 years of calculus and things like that. I wasn't the brightest of guys. I just worked really hard. But I got my degree, came back to Bosco, finished up my credential, and then went and spoke or taught at the public school for a couple of years. And now I'm back here, and I'm just really, honored to be able to do this. I don't teach anymore. I'm just a coach, which is kind of cool. Kind of feels like it's Texas. I only have to be a coach. And there's not a lot of programs out there that have this kind of, luxury, to be at the top of the food chain in terms of, the academic and athletic prowess of our school, and to be only coaching and having the opportunity in the middle of the school day to do this is pretty unique. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at today. Amazing.
Now before your friend had asked you to help out with the Pop Warner team, had coaching been something that you had considered up to that point?
Not really. I had just finished my playing career, and I knew that I wanted to stay a part of athletics, and I wanted to make some money. So I thought, I don't want to be a doctor because I didn't have that kind of intelligence. So I thought, well, why don't I be a physical therapist, help athletes. I wanted to do something where I was helping people get back to their sport or having some sort of involvement. Thought maybe, I'd be a team doctor type for a high school team or something like that. And then when I started coaching these little kids, I absolutely fell in love with it. I just loved the relationship. I love the impact that you had with young people. And I thought, man, if I can teach and coach at the same time, imagine, the kind of the effect that I can have on these young people if I can just give to them what was given to me. And that's the reason why I did it. And, I have never looked back, and I would never change this profession for a million years.
Yeah. Now, coaching at that level, at the youth level with the Pop Warner football, which is probably a great place to start coaching. What did you learn? What was your focus there? Was it all fundamentals? Were you starting to see the intricacies of offense and defense? What was going through your head at that age?
All of it, honestly. I think the biggest thing is the learning the people skills, having to deal with young people, how to deal with their parents. I think that's one of the most challenging thing in youth sports. And when I talk about that, I'm referring to high school as well. There is no difference in the families at which you deal with at the 7 and 8 year old level than you do at the 17, 18, 19 year old level. Parents are still parents. So you have to be able to manage those expectations, and you have to be able to communicate with them, and you have to set, boundaries and things like that. I learned that at a very young age. I was 19, 20 years old when I started at the youth level. So for me to be able to, progress in my career, I still draw upon some of those past experiences or the opportunities that I had in challenging times when dealing with parents. That I look back and said, well, I handled this when they were young, and I'm still handling it the same way now, 19 years into being a head football coach at the high school varsity level. So there's a lot of parallels, but I think that's where it all starts, and it's all about people management. The X's and O's, those are pretty similar. That hasn't changed a whole lot. You kind of have a philosophy, you still have to block, you still have to tackle, you still have to protect the football. All those things are no different when you're playing with 7 and 8 year olds as you are at the varsity level. You still have to do those fundamental things in football, and it's very simple. And a lot of people try to complicate it too much, but it's all about doing the little fundamental things right. And if you can do that, you're going to be successful.
Now so you're at Cal State Dominguez Hills, you're getting your degree in math, you're coaching the Pop Warner, and then you come here to John Bosco, to your alma mater, and you start coaching as an assistant. What was your positions coach, and what were you a positions coach of, and what was that experience now for your first time working with high school and doing it at your alma mater?
Well, the great thing is Kike Mendoza, who was the coach prior to me, he was here for 12 years. It was his first year as the head coach, and he reached out to me and he said, listen, I have a job for you if you want to come and coach the varsity secondary guys. And I was honored. I was blown away that somebody would like look at me as a youth coach and said, hey, why don't you come to the high school level? And Kiki and I were friends, so I had known him. My brother, played here in the program after I had already graduated. So I knew that I had kind of an in, and that was going to be my best chance to be able to start my coaching career as a place like Bosco. And he opened his arms up to me, taught me a lot, and was like, okay, this is what you're going to do. And for me to come back to my alma mater, it was special. I mean, I wanted to give back to the school and try to learn under some really talented people. And that's what the opportunity that I was provided. So for me to come back here and to be able to do that was super special. And like I said, my brother was just a couple years removed from the program. It was Kiki's first job. It was part of the Sarah League at the time.
Yeah.
But it was still one of the top leagues in the state, and if not the country. And it was a great way for me to build my coaching career, was at a place like this. And I'll never forget the opportunity he provided me. And, when I came back, I just never wanted to let this place down. And that's why I work so hard.
Amazing. Now from here, you moved to Trabuco Hills. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like now coaching at a public school? That was your first varsity head coaching experience. What all did you learn, especially jumping from an assistant to now a head coach? What all responsibilities came with that, and what was the learning curve for you?
Well, I learned real quickly after 3 years here at Bosco that I wanted to be in charge. Yeah. And it was more from a leadership standpoint. I've always kind of felt myself as being a leader and wanted to be in charge of something. And not that I wasn't a good assistant, because I think I worked really hard at that and I understood my role. But I wanted to be in charge. I wanted to have my own team, and I knew I had to grow a resume. And my high school baseball coach was the offensive coordinator and head baseball coach out at Trabuco Hills. And public schools paid a little bit better at the time. So he's like, hey man, you got your credential now. Why don't you come out? I can get you a job here at Trabuco. It's a great place. It's kind of a newer school, so to speak. And we kind of got some really good things going. Why don't you coach baseball and football and come out here and do that? So that's what I did. I took a leap of faith. I went out there. I was an assistant coach. I got to learn under a guy named Bill Crow, who's no longer with us. He has passed away, but he was the head coach in the football program. I coached baseball with Tim Ellis, and I learned a lot of stuff about, again, working with young people, being a coach, being a teacher, how to manage those things. But I think what it did is it sped my career up, because I was just an assistant. I went out there. I took a demotion. I was a defensive coordinator here at Bosco when I left, just became a linebackers coach out there. But it was all about building that resume, learning from different people, trying to put myself in position to eventually become a head coach. And I was a soldier. I did everything that I needed to do in terms of trying to make our program better out there. And that was seen by a lot of people. And I was offered the job after a couple of years. And I spent 7 years as the head coach there. And it was all the work that I did as an assistant that I learned what was important as a head coach. And I think without that experience, I wouldn't have been as successful as I am to this day.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that you coach baseball there as well. Mm-hmm. Was there anything that you learned or took from coaching baseball that you were able to bring into football, or vice versa, having coached two different sports?
I think the biggest thing is just managing expectations of kids, and managing the expectations of parents that they have, and trying to, the fundamentals of coaching are all the same. I don't care whether you're coaching football at the varsity level or you're coaching, junior varsity softball. It doesn't matter. The elements of coaching are all the same. It's still trying to get kids to work at their highest potential. Trying to get kids, what we talk about all the time, their genetic ceiling. Obviously they have a development period in their lives. We're going to use the 4-year window that which we have to try to get them to be the best versions of themselves. And then there's all the psychological things that go on to coaching as well, in terms of character development, getting these kids to act in an ethical manner, the failures and the successes that they're going to have to deal with, and the ebbs and flows that go through a season or even a career, and having to deal with things that might not necessarily, be athletically based. Kids have problems at the home, or they have a challenge with their girlfriend, or their parents are on them all the time. And you have to kind of be that mentor for them, which goes beyond the athletics. And I think, I'm just using the platform at which I was given, which is coaching and being able to be with a bunch of great group of young men to be able to, try to help them in society. And I think that's ultimately what my goal is. And I was able to do that, whether it was baseball or football. It really didn't matter. And like I said, you can go and coach tennis and still accomplish those same things.
Absolutely. Now, after 7 years as the head coach at Trabuco Hills, you get the job at St. John Bosco. What did it mean to you to be able to be the head coach of your alma mater? Was that always the dream? Did you think it was going to happen? What all went into that?
No, it's crazy. I had no idea that this was going to be the trajectory of my career. When I got the head job at Trabuco, I thought, man, I'm set. This is where I'm going to be. It was a public school. I had a great pension. The benefits were great. I loved my teaching job. And then all of a sudden, at some point, toward the latter part of 2009, November, into December, we had played in the CIF Championship game at Trabuco, and we had lost. And the athletic director, Monty McDermott, from St. John Bosco, called me and said, hey, man, saw the last couple of your games. Would like to see if you'd be interested in meeting up with me and Pat Lee, who was the principal. And I kind of like said, yeah, that'd be fun. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Why don't we talk? And they're like, all right, cool. Let's meet up. And then when I started to kind of, internalize what was going on, I'm thinking, oh man, maybe something's going to happen. Maybe Kiki and I had talked, and he was trying to kind of move on, and he was, nearing the end of his tenure. He'd spent 12 years here. And so I thought, man, maybe could they ask me about what they're going to do, or maybe they're going to ask for some advice. And lo and behold, it turned into kind of like a quasi 3-hour, fact-finding mission about what my program was all about at Trabuco, what I was looking for. And then they told me they wanted to present me with a job offer and see what was going to happen. And then one thing led to another, and I went back to the house and talked to my family and asked them. And I called a couple people, that my close circle, and said, hey, would you go with me type thing if something like this happens? And we just continued to progress through it. And it's a dream come true to come back here to Bosco. This is the pinnacle of high school sports. We're a national brand now. We're one of the, top ranked teams in the country over the last 10 years, consistently, year in and year out. And I'm very fortunate to be able to be in this position. And as long as the resources are still available, as long as the support still comes from the administration, I'm going to continue to do what we're doing. But it's a blessing, certainly, to be here.
Now, you talked about it just then when you said this is a national brand, which certainly it is. We were talking a little bit before the show. I went to Damien High School in Laverne, so I grew up hearing about Bosco. Bosco has always had a great program. So you didn't necessarily have to come and maybe change a culture, but you certainly continued it. We ran down the accolades just, since 2010, 5 Trinity League titles, 3 CIF titles, 3 state titles, 2 national titles. What was it that you brought that you think contributed to that culture of winning, of excellence, of becoming the national brand that St. John Bosco certainly is?
Well, the school had fallen on some hard times, in successful realm, so to speak. They hadn't made the playoffs in 7 years. They were really challenged being a part of the Trinity League, which has 5 Orange County schools, and then St. John Bosco is the lone LA County school here. So we were kind of always looked at as kind of the stepchild. It's just kind of that school that kind of rounds out the rest of our league, so to speak. And there wasn't a whole lot of belief in the program. We had a lot of talented guys. So we didn't have to change the structure or the culture of the school or what made up the program. What we had to do is come in and change the philosophy and the mental side of things as far as we can compete in this league. We're going to go there and we're going to be an equal. We're not the stepchild. We're not the other just team on the other side of the tracks. We're the actual equal to you guys, and we're going to go out there and we're going to prove it. And I think that was the biggest thing that we were able to accomplish. And when I brought the staff in, a lot of the guys that I brought in weren't from St. John Bosco. So they were from outside. So they didn't understand that there was this culture on the campus of we were just the 6th best team or the 5th best team in the league. So it was easy for me to quickly just kind of translate that into a winning culture by just telling the kids, look, we got belief. And all of a sudden we go into our first season in 2010, and they had lost to Mater Dei by 46 points the year before. And, we had the lead with about 2.5 minutes to go in 2010. And that's a switch of about 52 points in 1 year. And we ended up losing the game. But after that game, it was like Disneyland in the locker room. I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing? We just lost a game. And they're like, Coach, we got blown out by 46 last year. We had a chance in this game. And it's like that quickly it switched. It was like a light switch or a snap of the fingers. And we just built upon it and just kept building and building and building. And then all of a sudden we got a lot of confidence. And then once that happens, then you can start going playing a difficult schedule and you can go start challenging people. Like Long Beach Poly was one of the top teams in the area, and we started winning the league. I think we have the record for 23 or 24 straight league wins from 2011 all the way through 2015, I believe it is. And, and so that's just basically it happened. It's a snowball effect, and we've just kind of carried that momentum into 2021 and hopefully beyond.
Yeah. And, if you're listening to this or watching this from outside of the Southern California area and you're not aware, I ran down the accolades from this program. And oddly enough, to me, what might be the most impressive is 5 Trinity League titles. MaxPreps has ranked Trinity League the toughest league, the toughest football league for high schools in the country. We've got Mater Dei, Servite, J. Sarah, Santa Margarita, St. John Bosco. If you look year in, year out at who the top teams in the country are, I would say probably 3 of the top 10 are coming out of the Trinity League. What is it like every year having, that's not even your non-conference schedule. Right. That's every year you're playing Mater Dei, Servite, J. Sarah, Santa Margarita. I mean, every year you're playing the top teams in the country. What does that do to you having to prepare mentally and just knowing what the level of competition is?
Well, it's easy to get the kids motivated. I mean, that's the first thing. It's easy to get kids to want to come to school here because they want to be a part of a place that is elite. That's what they're looking for. It's honestly what we want our kids when they leave our program. It's the reason why they go to the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Boston colleges, the Michigans. That's why they go to those places, because they're looking for that next level of eliteness, And so when kids come in here, it's real easy to say, like, look, this is where we're at. This is where we want to stay. This is what the expectations are. So if you set those expectations and they're realistic, then you can accomplish them. And, with just a little bit of hard work and some luck has got to go into the way. But the reason why we have become a national brand and done the things that we have done is because we happen to be a part of this league. If we weren't, and we were an outlier, it would be much more difficult to do. We're successful because all the other people in our league are as successful as possible. And for us, not only do we have to play these guys in league, but as we're going to see tomorrow night, we got to play Servite again. If we win that game, chances are we got to play Mater Dei again. In our 3 CIF championship games, we beat Mater Dei in the finals. So it's really a challenge because not only do we have to play them in league, but most of the time we got to play them in the playoffs again. So it's just kind of something that's just, kind of organically happened, and our kids don't know any different. This is just the way it is. Bosco has to play Mater Dei. They have to play Servite. And we're going to go out there and we're going to try to do the best job that we possibly can. I think one of the greatest things that we've been able to accomplish as a staff is letting our kids know it's not about the opponent, it's more about ourselves. We know we're a talented group of people. We know that all we have to do is go out there and execute and play our type of ball game, and we're going to be successful no matter who we play. And that's what's helped us not only in league, but with all the out-of-state competition that we play as well. I mean, that's one thing I'm most proud about is how successful we have been against teams across the country. I mean, we've been incredibly successful. We've only lost to 2 out-of-state teams in 12 years that I've been here, and I think we've played like 21 or 22 games against out-of-state teams, and we're like 19-2 or 19-3 against those guys. So it's just something that just has built, and now it's an expectation coming in, and it makes it easier to just, to continue down that road.
Absolutely. Now, when we talk about your team, I mean, this is a high school. These are kids between the ages of probably 14 and 18. How do you keep them focused? How do you keep them mentally tough? How do you keep them focused on the task at hand?
It's a competitive environment, and they know that they can't slip up because the next guy is right there ready to go. And I think that's something that I always was enamored with Pete Carroll when he was at USC. He always talked about competition, and he always talked about, trying to, the next man up mentality or do your job type thing. And if you don't, we're going to find somebody else that does it. And one of the things that I built my coaching career on is looking at those people that have successful programs year in and year out and ask yourself, how did they do it? Nick Saban at Alabama is a prime example. The guy is just absolutely amazing that he has such the turnover of a roster every single year, but the next guy in is just as good as the guy that just left. And that's kind of the philosophy that we wanted to have here at Bosco. And that's the mindset at which we have with our kids. So you're a freshman. Well, that senior's leaving. When you become a sophomore, be that guy. Go try to take his job. Go and try to be as successful as him. Or here is the barometer at which we're going to measure our success is how well you can go and overtake that position. Bill Belichick is the same way at the New England Patriots. I mean, every single year he's turning over the roster, but for some reason he's still playing in Super Bowls and he's still winning conference titles. And how do you do that? Well, you create a mindset of it doesn't matter, who the necessary, people are within the organization. Everybody has a job to do. And if you do it at the highest level in your abilities, you're going to be successful. And I think that's basically the mentality and the approach that we have taken. It's kind of the mission of our school. It's the mission of our program. And it just, like I said a second ago, it's organically has just developed. And once you've built that, then it's easier to push them a little bit further. And when you push somebody to be even more competitive than they already are, they just become better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, you're building a gap between you and your next closest opponent. And then now it's harder for them to catch up. And that's one thing that we continually do is just try to continue to push that bar higher and higher.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of pushing the bar higher and higher, you've had some great players come through this program, among others, Wyatt Davis of the Vikings, Josh Rosen of UCLA and the Falcons, DJ Uagalele at Clemson, Real Mitchell at Temple. What is it like for you as a coach when you have somebody that's got that level of talent that you know is going to be at a certain level at some point? Do you coach them differently? Do you push them harder? What is it like managing somebody that has an exceptional level of talent?
Great question. I mean, I think one of the things that we do a really good job of is we teach and coach our most talented player like we do our least talented player. It's a consistent approach to coaching. It's a consistent approach to educating. It's no different than in a classroom when you're trying to teach a particular subject. You know, you're going to teach the subject, but, you know, you expect your high-level thinkers and your really intelligent kids to perform at a certain level. And then those kids that are performing at a lower level, you might coach them or teach them differently, but the goal is still the same, and that's for improvement. That's for them to try to find wherever their bar is and their genetic ceiling I talked about earlier, you know, how close can we get them to get to that point? So one of the things I think we take a lot of pride in is we coach our most talented guys as hard or harder than we do anybody else. We're not afraid of our superstars. We don't let them cruise. We don't let them take days off. And, ultimately I think what happens is that just basically, transponds to the rest of the team, and the rest of the guys kind of pick up on that. And they say, well, if the hardest working guy who is the most talented, player in our program is getting coached just like me, well, then that means coach cares about me. He cares about my trajectory and how successful I'm going to be in my future. And therefore it motivates them to continue to work hard. And I think that's something that my staff, does in all three levels. I think we do a really good job of working with our kids in that way. And ultimately the kids, feel that there's a sense of belonging and they're going to continue to work hard. So you can't be afraid of your best guys. You got to work with them. And it's easy when they lead by example, because then I can just say, look at that guy. Why do you think he's going where he's going? Yeah. It's because he's willing to put in the work. And a lot of kids here at Bosco, that's what they want. And if not, you're going to get weeded out real quick and you just won't play. Yeah. And kids want to play. It's the reason why they sign up. Absolutely. So it's a real easy way to motivate these guys and to get them to perform at a high level. Absolutely.
Now we talk about the superstars and St. John Bosco has had many, but for most, high school athletes, I was a high school athlete. I never played beyond that. For most high school athletes, that kind of is what it's going to be. We're not going to play at the next level. Very, very few are going to get to the professional level. What do you hope the kids in your program take out of it that don't necessarily apply to football, that they can take with them into whatever it is that they're going to be doing in the next stages of their lives? Sports, teaches so many life lessons. I mean, whether it's about how to handle success, how to handle adversity, how to deal with, letdowns, or how to overcome any kind of obstacles and things like that. It develops character. It reveals character. I mean, there's so many cliches that talk about, what a young man's going to get out of your program. And at the end of the day, we're going to look back to the mission of the school. We're a Salesian school founded and owned and operated by the Salesians of Don Bosco. And his whole idea was, to teach through, educational system about, loving religion and kindness for young people. And basically our school is an extension of the home. It's a school, it's a church, it's a playground. And all of these elements are going to help us develop young people. And I'm just saying, a little bit ago that we're going to use the platform at which I was given, which happens to be football, to be able to teach the same principles about life development for young people as the guy in the religion department or the guy in the English department. And there's a consistent approach to educating and to teaching. And one of the ways that I really learned this was from Bob Laudeser, who was the longtime coach at De La Salle High School. When you ever listen to him talk, it was never about just going out there and creating these little football machines. He was a religion teacher. And the same principles at which he taught in the religion class, to his students, he took those same principles of hard work and effort and integrity and all those things and brought them out to the football field. And then all of a sudden you're teaching in the same manner, and it's consistently, being pushed on these kids all the time. And then you're going to see some growth there. You're going to see them start to behave, which
way that you're trying to model them to behave through the teachings. And I think that is something that we do here at Bosco. We just took the Salesian approach to educating young people, put it into our program, and then organically what happens is it just happens to where it becomes a way of life. And then these guys continue to stack upon successes, and then all of a sudden it's like a snowball running downhill. It picks up momentum, and it's hard to stop.
Now, speaking of that, how do you measure your success as a coach? Is it the championships? Is it the graduation rate? What is the ultimate? I guess there can be more than one, but what do you see as like the success?
I think the ultimate thing for us, obviously we're here to win football games. Sure. And that's the goal, and that's the reason why I was placed in the position. But I think it's about the development of young people. When you take a kid into your program, whether he's a 4-year kid or whether it's a kid that transferred in, it's a sophomore, it doesn't matter. You're still going to educate them and teach them and mentor them the very same way. I guess the biggest thing for me is when kids come back onto campus and they come back to see us, whether it's at a game or yesterday I had a student athlete that graduated from UCLA and he's got his own career going right now, and he was a graduate of 2013 class. And he came in here and he just wanted to talk. And it wasn't about football. It wasn't about, the game that we played back in 2012 that he rushed for so many yards. It was about, what are you doing in life? How's your girlfriend? Here's where I'm living. This is what my job's all about. And it meant enough for him to come back and share with me and ask me those same questions that it was like, this is what it's about. This is, what we're trying to do is to build these guys into these people that can believe that they can be successful. And when I look through social media and I see some of the kids comment on some of our things, it just makes me feel good. I'll click on the little, profile and I'll see that, he's a lawyer or he's, a doctor, or he's pre-med, or, he's getting his master's degree or whatever. That is the most gratifying thing for me, is when I see the people that have come through our program and are now successful at life and using some of the principles at which we talked about, and the sense of pride that they have with the success that we're having now is really cool. I sit back and I make mental notes of all those kids, and it's special to me.
Awesome. Now, as we wind down, there's a question that I like to ask everybody that comes on the show, which is, for you personally, what has sports meant for you in your life, and what has sports done for you?
Man, so much. I'm 48 years old right now. It's provided me with a lifestyle, a very comfortable lifestyle. From a standpoint of when you talk to a lot of people and you look at them in their day-to-day lives, you have to ask them, how comfortable are you and how do you feel every day when you wake up? Well, I don't feel that I go to work, so what sports has provided me is an opportunity to do what I love day in and day out. I mean, I tell my kids, I got 2 girls, and I tell my wife, I said, hey, I'm heading to school. And they're like, don't you mean work? My daughters go, don't you mean work? I'm like, no, I don't feel like go to work. I feel that I go to school every day. I get to teach, I get to educate, I get to be around people that I care about. My best friends are all people that are associated here with my program. And so I think sports has taught me a lot of humility. It's taught me how to, manage success. It's taught me how to adapt and to overcome obstacles in difficult times. It's really revealed, a lot in my character and how to deal with people. It's a very humbling thing because you have people that are very excited and they're rooting for you. And yet now with the creation of social media, you find out how many people just are uneducated, ignorant about what you're trying to accomplish, and have all these visions on what you're doing as a program. And it's just so far from the truth, but yet it's helped me kind of manage my relationship with other people. And sports is amazing. Sports is probably one of the most polarizing things in this country. I mean, you look at it from the high school level all the way to the professional level. There's a reason why it's the most popular probably activity in this world is sports. And so to be a part of that and to be able to live my life daily and not feel that I have to go to work is what sports obviously provided me.
Amazing. Well, Coach Jason Negro from St. John Bosco, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you to you guys who are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or anywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you for those of you who are watching on YouTube. If you guys want to check us out, we're on TikTok at Cannon Sports Official. We're on Instagram at Cannon Sports, and of course, cannonsports.com for all of your sporting goods needs. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.